The train driver suddenly found a girl rushing to the train. He hurriedly pulled down the stopper, but inadvertently crossed the road, and the train suddenly stopped. Fortunately, the train stopped steadily at the moment when it was about to collide with the girl, but the girl fainted directly on the railing due to too much shock. Fortunately, the train driver learned from the girl's companions that the reason why they stopped the train was just now. They witnessed a mountain slide. A thick tree was crushed and hung on the railing. The kind children knew very well that if they didn't see it, the consequences would be unimaginable as soon as the train arrived. So they got up and took off their bright red shirts and danced hard. This is how they successfully stopped the train. In order to reward the three children, the railway company held a grand award ceremony for them, and the children who became heroes dressed up excitedly. After being praised by everyone, they also received precious prizes, and these prizes just made their life better. However, just a few months ago, the three sisters were still living in London. Not only were there senior family teachers in class, but there were also sweet maids to serve them. However, something bad happened. On the day of the younger brother's birthday, his father gave him an expensive train. While the children were excitedly playing with the train suddenly broke down, which seemed to indicate that something bad was about to happen. That night, the father, who has always been upright, was forcibly taken away by two strange men. The children were so surprised by this sudden change that the mother was so scared that she was confused about the father's whereabouts. In order not to put pressure on the children, the mother held back her tears and concealed the truth. This is a gentle comfort to them. The father is just busy with work and needs to go on a business trip for a while, but the sister did not believe the mother's words. She was sharp-minded. When she realized the mother's sad mood, she vaguely felt that something bad had happened, and things were developing in a strange direction. When the younger brother and sister played with the maids again that day, they didn't expect the maid, who had always been patient, to act abnormally and didn't choose to obey. She was so scared that she threw a tantrum at the two children. If you continue to do evil, you will end up like your father. As soon as he got off work, he hurriedly packed up and left. Shortly after the maid left, the mother also planned to sell all the furniture in the house and move to the old house in the countryside to live. In order not to worry the children, she lied that we were playing a game of poor people. That night, when it was getting dark, the family hurriedly got on the train to the countryside. For the first time, the younger brother was so excited that he hoped to play the moving game every month. To this, the mother could only respond bitterly, because only she knew that from now on, everything would depend on herself. By the middle of the night, the family had finally arrived at their destination. But the uneven dirt road in the countryside made the three brothers and sisters struggle. Fortunately, a warm-hearted train driver took the initiative to help pull the luggage, so that this bumpy journey was not so difficult. But as soon as they stepped into the house, the children were completely shocked by the scene in front of them. The wall was not only broken, but also the sound of mice in the corner. They were so scared that they tried to seek shelter. Fortunately, the mother quickly lit the candle. At the same time as dispelling the darkness and fear, the family finally had dinner. The hardship along the way made the children miss their father. If the father was there, the family would not have had to work so hard. Fortunately, the optimistic family did not give up. Instead, they settled down here very quickly. The younger brothers and sisters who first came to the countryside were curious about the play. At home, they played with the water pump in the yard. But the noise of the children's play disturbed the mother, who planned to write a novel to make up for the house. In order not to disturb the mother's creation, the sister took her sister out to play. They walked through the endless fields and went to the station to express their gratitude to the train driver who helped them last night. With the children's understanding, the train driver was deeply moved. And the train driver also became the first good friend. As the days went by, the children gradually adapted to the quiet and free life in the countryside. Soon, as winter approaches, the temperature is getting lower and lower. The children want to burn coal. But the mother, who had no money to buy coal, had no choice but to tell them to wear thick clothes when it was cold. The younger brother, who was trembling, suddenly had a bold idea. In the middle of the night, he sneaked into the train station and planned to pick up some coal stickers. But before he could do it, he was found by the stationmaster who was on patrol. From the first day they met, the stationmaster often ran around the train station and disturbed the order of the station. He was very upset. At that moment, the younger brother, who felt that he was stealing, was very angry and said that he would send him to the police station. One by one, the two gradually became good friends. Time flies. In a blink of an eye, another month has passed. Because the father still wanted to be silent, the children's thoughts were all over the place. They could only stay by the railway and wave at the train heading for London, hoping that the train could bring this concern to their distant father. But I didn't expect that one day, when they waved, an old gentleman also smiled and waved at them. This sudden scene not only made the children's courage difficult, but also made them come to the railway every day to wave at the train passing by. And the old gentleman always responded. Gently, gradually, this became a tacit understanding between them. At this moment, the children did not expect that this old gentleman would become the person who changed their fate. Not long after, the mother's cooperation worked. After applying to the Wushujia magazine, they were finally able to pass the draft and get the first draft fee in their lives. Although the number is small, in this busy life, it is like a warm sun in winter, which shows the family the hope of life. But they haven't celebrated for themselves yet. A sudden change hit them suddenly. On this day, the mother suddenly had a flu. After a checkup, the doctor gave them a nutrition list and told them to buy some nutritious food to help the mother recover better. But the family was in dire straits. The children could only use the draft fee to buy food for their mother, but they only bought some cheap bread. But even so, this amount of money was still far from enough. After a lot of thinking, the sister finally came up with a solution. She turned over the white sheet and carefully wrote a few lines on the sheet and decided to ask the old gentleman for help. When the train passed by, the old gentleman still looked around and saw the white sheet that the two brothers were holding together. Looking at the train station, his heart sank. They were deeply grateful to the old gentleman. The next day, they especially thanked the old gentleman. This made the old gentleman very happy. Unexpectedly, he really helped a family through the difficulties. But when the mother found out that the children asked the old gentleman for help, she scolded them seriously and shouldn't ask strangers for help. This made the children feel very wronged. They just wanted the mother to get better soon, but they didn't expect the mother's pure heart to be so angry. Then the mother wrote a letter to the old gentleman. She sincerely expressed her gratitude to the other party and also clearly expressed her attitude to this matter. She always thought that she could still support her family with both hands. No matter what, she didn't want to accept other people's help for no reason. This also made the three children understand the mother's strength and independence. The day went on calmly like this. Until this day, a mysterious foreign man suddenly came to the station. He didn't understand what the foreigner said. The train staff wanted to report to the superior, but the children who came overheard that the foreigners spoke Russian. Because the mother could speak Russian, they decided to bring the foreigners home and let the mother translate for them. After a while of communication, the children learned that the foreigner was also a writer under the cruel rule of killing the emperor. In order to find his family in London, he was forced to run away from his hometown. Seeing the writer in the same predicament, the kind family decided to take him in for the time being and invited a doctor to check his health. Fortunately, his health was not serious, but he was too tired and needed to rest in bed for a few days. But every time they mentioned their father, their mother was always very sad. Although the children did not know what happened, they could only close their mouths and not talk. Until That day, things changed. When the sister looked at the magazine that the trainman had sent, she accidentally saw a picture of her father. It said that her father was sentenced to 6 years in prison. The anxious sister immediately went to her mother to find out what happened to her father. In the face of the anxious daughter, the mother had no choice but to tell the story. It turned out to be the business of her father's colleagues who secretly reported to the government that the shop that slandered her father was an anti-communist stronghold. Therefore, her father was arrested and sentenced. The truth came out. Like a thunderbolt, the sister was so sad that she could not help but think of her father. She thought that with her father's ability, she would be able to find out the truth for her father. So she immediately wrote a letter to her father and handed the letter to the stationmaster the next morning, hoping that the other party could personally send the letter to her father. Soon, the sister received a reply from her father saying that things were going well and invited him to meet at the station. When the two met, her father's words surprised her sister. "In fact, you didn't have to write to me because I had already seen the news about your father and had been secretly investigating for a while. I have always believed that a father who can teach such a kind child will never do anything treasonous. This time I called you here just to tell you that your father's case still has hope. It's just that now it's not the time to tell your mother about this." This news brought hope to her sister and made her depressed for many days.